Hey everyone, it's Hydro Pump here. We got a very special video. We are going to be covering the first place deck list from RBET 3 Season 2. I am here with Ghost Rider and his Dragon Turbo deck.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Yeah, thanks for joining me on the channel here. Very exciting that you managed to win this RBET with Dragon Turbo. I know you have played this deck quite a lot and you have some nice innovations and additions to the deck. And so yeah, it's kind of cool seeing this deck get the dub finally.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, I know a lot. It's not the fan favorite deck because it's kind of like modern Yu-Gi-Oh, not a lot of interaction to some degree, but it's either you kind of win or you kind of lose sometimes. But yeah, it managed to get first place, and I think the RBET was about 200 players, a little less than like 192, I believe, but. And so how many rounds of Swiss was it? This was a Swiss tournament, by the way. It wasn't like the double elimination.
Right. This was 8 rounds of Swiss and then top eight cut.
Yeah, and then so overall you had like a draw in Swiss, so you went like 10-0 and 1, I believe.
Yeah.
Or yeah, okay, that makes sense. Uh, you want to do a quick rundown of the decks you played against, if you remember off the top of your head?
So I played against Black Wings round one. Round two, I played against, I believe it was Diva Hero. And then round three was Hero Beat. Then round four and five were can't remember exactly on the top of my head, but I know one of them was a Neospatian deck, and the other one was was the Machina deck. Yeah, the
Mm.
Machina deck. And then I played against Blackwings, and um, what else did I play? I can't remember off the top of my head.
Bunch of Blackwings.
Yeah, in Top Cut it was all Blackwings.
Yeah, it's all. I think I saw all your top cut matches. It was pretty much like three Blackwings in a row. I know the last round was supposed to play against Blackwings as well because he played against Kapachi and he also played him in top eight.
Yeah, I played them in round eight, and then I played them again in top eight.
Ooh. So you were pretty much the only player that didn't get a loss throughout the whole tournament, I believe. Uh,
I think so.
cool. So you pretty much went undefeated throughout the whole thing in matches. So that's pretty neat. Cool. We'll just jump right into the deck profile. A good amount of this stuff is like staples to the deck because you can't really afford to cut some of these cards, but we'll just kind of there's definitely some text in here and like card changes, so we'll go through those. So obviously, you have the three red mid, three blue eyes, three white stone. Nothing really to change with those. I see you went back to the Flamebell Guard, which is something I used to play. I've been kind of testing without it. How did that perform for you in the tournament?
It's really good. There's times where you need more targets for cards of consonants, and especially because it's a fire monster, it's really good when you need to go into Brionic and you have Quackimiro Drago on field because it's not a light or dark monster.
Did that come up at all for you?
Yeah, it came up once.
Yeah, that's kind of like what I was finding is like it happens like once like one game out of a whole tournament run or so. So it's just kind of hard to decide if it's actually necessary to have it or not. Um, but yeah, it's I mean you can't really go wrong with playing the guard. So yeah, I like the inclusion, and obviously the three debris dragon and the one Drago. I don't think you can really afford to cut these either. Um, I think you messed around with cutting Draco before, even myself, and I was just like, yeah, you need to keep this card, just because can't afford to Trag or Gores to stop the OTK, even Fader.
Yeah, exactly. You need something that can stop those cards.
Yeah, and then this is something that you kind of been on for a while now. It's the Vortex Trooper. I even started testing it myself the past couple weeks. But yeah, how did this card do for you?
This card, I think, was the MVP of the whole tournament. There's a lot of games that I think I should have lost if it wasn't for this card because I opened up hands that were like brick cards, and I would just activate this card's effect, shuffle two cards back into my deck, and then I would draw the cards that I need to go off.
Yeah, it has some nice synergy in this deck. Well, for those that don't know, it's pretty much like a magical mallet where you can summon it, normal summon it, and then shuffle two cards from your hand to your deck, and then draw two cards. So you can kind of just take two bricks that you open with and shuffle them back, and then if it's destroyed, you draw a card. And fun fact, if it happens to get like deck devastation virus in hand, you get the draw card still. So it replaces itself, and then that pretty bad situation. And then on top of that, it's a debris dragon target. So yeah, it's like it does a lot of synergies with this deck, which is pretty neat. And I played one in a 3v3 tournament last week, and it did pretty good. I kind of wanted the second one. We talked about it the other day, but maybe three is probably too much. Just because you want to summon debris at some point. So two might be the sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think three is too much. I was testing three for a while, and I would open up multiples, which is not what you want. And there's also times when you would shuffle back two cards, and then you'll draw another Vortex Trooper, which is also not what you want.
Yeah. So that's like less likely with just playing two, but yeah, I definitely think two might be the good choice to go with. And then just having the level 7 access with debris dragons is really nice. Like you can just Black Rose nuke the field at any point, or you can climb into like a level 8 or something like that. There's a lot of options you can do.
It's an easy way to get rid of Colossal Fighter.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, and yeah, it's just a really good addition to the deck. And then you have the Trag here. Uh, Pretty sure Trags is kind of staple at this point. I think it's been in every list that anyone's played, but I usually play Gores. I even tested Fader. So how does just the one Trag? How does Trag been for you? Just playing that.
I really like Trag compared to Gores and Fader. The thing about Gores is that you need to have no back row for it to resolve, and I'm playing triple Reckless Greed. So usually I'm setting cards, and if I want to resolve a Gores, I have to use my Reckless Greeds on their turn, which is not what I usually want to do. I'd rather have that extra card in my draw phase so I can keep going and keep making more plays.
Yeah, it makes sense. I tested Battle Fader over Gores this past last weekend in a tournament just to have another battle stopper. And then sometimes there's like when you get so low to where you would just die to anything, and then Fader just comes in clutch there. Um, but yeah, I mean, you just played the one track, and it seemed to do pretty good for you. I think there was one game where you play against Black Wings and you deck dev'd you. I think it was like top four, and so like maybe having Gore's the potential draw there because you were drooped a bunch, but like obviously you couldn't draw anything to stop him from attacking. So maybe in that niche situation, Gore's would be pretty good, but that's the only thing I could think of really for maybe including Gores. But the deck space is already pretty tight. So
Yeah, exactly.
cool. Okay, so that's all the monsters and onto the spells. You got the three super rejuvenation cards, pretty crazy. Just because like it's quick play, so you can just keep on drawing into other rejuves off the one that you just activated. So, did you resolve any like insane rejuves? Like, how many do you dig through your deck for? Like the max?
So I think the max was about 8 for each rejuve,
Ooh.
and I activated 3 of them on the same turn, so I drew 24 cards.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I see some people play this deck and then just like they'll like read you for like one time and it's like they're like, okay, I have enough cards. Like you just want to have like you just want to draw most of your cards to like we have a couple cards left in deck. Um, it kind of depends if you don't want to put yourself too low, just so like you can pot avarice if you need to or something. But usually it's pretty good just to go through your whole deck, just to
Right.
make sure you have everything you need for the OTK the following turn.
Yeah, you usually don't want to go below 2 cards, so you can still resolve avarice if you need to.
Yeah. So yeah, cards pretty crazy. We got the 3 trade in, 3 cards of consonants. I don't think there's really anything changing with these. You just want to always open these cards with a combination of your dragons. So pretty crazy, pretty crazy good there. And then the 3 upstarts, and this is something I've been playing around with. Like I agree that upstart makes the deck really consistent, but sometimes the deck is be really hard to kill with upstarts. But it worked out for you here. Any remarks about upstart?
So I've been testing without Upstart, and the problem is sometimes you need that extra consistency to go off. Like I know there's times when giving them life points doesn't let you OTK them, but I think it's still worth playing the upstarts so you can actually make plays. There's times where you open a brick hand and having that upstart is what you need to just actually start doing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. It makes the deck really just that much more consistent. Where and just the way I look at it is like it's like 3 less bad cards you have to play because whatever you put is probably just gonna be a filler most likely.
Right.
So yeah, I like the card a lot. It's just I played in the tournament last week, the 3v3, and I played against a bunch of frog players, and they just got so high life points, and for some reason I just like could not kill them. So that was like really frustrating. And they had some like crazy crackback to like come back. So, but yeah, I definitely like Upstart a lot. So I think it's probably just you have to play 3 and it's kind of like deal with it. Um, and then we got the 1 pot avarice. I used to play 2 last year, but I was also main deck in Card Trooper, but I kind of got off the Card Trooper and pot avarice at 2. Um, and one's just pretty good. Um, did you have any remarks about pot avarice?
Yeah, so when I first started playing this deck, I also started with 2 Avarice. And what I've noticed is that you don't want to see this early game, especially if your hand isn't so great. Like I feel like the only time you do want it turn 1 is if you open up extremely broken, something like Future Fusion or Card Destruction. And if you're already drawing those cards, then you should already be winning anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the only sus time when you have 1 pot avarice is like if for some reason all your red meds are engraved and then they DD Crow on your pot avarice. I think that's like the only time where you definitely need a second one. Um,
Yeah, game 2 and 3, that's more likely to happen.
yeah,
But game 1, it's not really a problem.
yeah, yeah. It's just like that's such a niche situation, and then like you're usually when I played 2, I was always siding 1 out anyway, so that wouldn't really matter regardless. Just because they were bringing in DD Crows, so just like one less card they would have to hit with it. But yeah, I think that it's perfectly fine at 1, just because you discard all your dragons and you just want to put some back. Just like put the re-dragon back to summon red mid, or you discard a couple red mids, put them back. And yeah, if 1's definitely good, and then you see it at the right times. Usually, it is awful, like you said, when you open it.
Right.
And then magical stone excavation. Now you keep this card in games 2 and 3 usually, where I would normally side it out, but I guess you like if you're going like if you activate Rejuve and then Magical Stone, Rejuve, you discard 2 dragons. So like at worst, if they DD Crow, the Rejuve, you're only going like what neg 1 if you haven't discarded any more dragons that turn.
Yeah, so it's not really that bad if you do have the Rejuve. And if you do side this card out, you're losing ways to actually resolve a big rejuve.
Yeah.
So my logic is like they better have the DD Crow turn one.
So do you I guess you just always keep this card in for
Yeah,
most
I keep it
situations?
in.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like if okay, so if you discard one dragon, then you discard two more off the magical stone, like, and then DD Crow it. Okay, you're gonna draw through your off the original Rejuve, so then you're just gonna be even card advantage at that point because they discard DD Crow. So it'd be like an even trade essentially, and then you can
Right.
draw more Rejuves off that one as well. So yeah, I can I do see like it lacking sometimes like without magical stone post side. So maybe I'll consider keeping it in more often. Well, I have been doing that a little bit more recently. This kind of depends, like certain matchups where I know like maybe they're not on DD Crows and stuff. But yeah, definitely a broken card. Just like lets you toolbox all your spells and stuff. So yeah, really good card. And you're on two Instant Fusion where I would normally play one, but I can see the merits of playing two just because it gives you that extra dragon for like an OTK push, or it doesn't make you so limited on your resources.
Yeah, there's times when you activate the first instant fusion and you're not able to win the game somehow. So I like having the second one just in case. If Yeah, you can get it back with magical stone if you only play one, but I like to save magical stone for something like heavy storm.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely times where it's like it lets you like just throw away the first one if you need to, like on an end phase rejuve, rather than just like being like, well, I have to choose between getting back heavy storm or instant fusion off a magical stone, and because you can only keep so many cards in your hand on the end phase when you do like pop off. So that's just kind of like something nice. Uh, I think in previous builds I did one instant fusion and one vortex. That's the one vortex that like clear boards and uh, kill a Christia. Otherwise, you don't have any oust a Christia in your main board. But I feel like this deck should be fast enough to like where you don't get Christia unless you're playing against like there's like only two decks that play Christia in this format. So like the likelihood of that happening is kind of low. So
Right. And the thing about Fairy is that it's a really good matchup for you. It's pretty easy to beat that deck because all they play is a bunch of recruiters, and it's a really slow paced type of gameplay. So that actually favors you as a dragon player.
yeah, regular fairies definitely have a hard time. The Christia Sworn deck can spit out Christia a lot quicker, but again, it's at that point it's like only for one matchup, so like I think you can get away without Vortex in the main.
Right.
Alrighty, so the rest of the cards is pretty broken. We have Card Destruction, Future Fusion. Um, if you open these cards and they resolve, you're probably gonna win. But if you open both of them, you definitely should win. Uh, that's because Future Fusion gets you multiple blue eyes, and then you can Card Destruction for a plus, and then you're just bound to draw all your good cards at that point. So
Yeah, exactly. Like having those two cards together is it's really hard to beat.
yeah, this anytime I see these together, I'm like, oh man. Um, and then we got the one heavy storm here, obviously. But I realized you were not main decking Giant Trunade, where I feel like up to this point it's been pretty much like staple to have Trunade and Heavy Storm. You want to talk about that?
So I'm not 100% sure about siding it. I was thinking of putting it back to the main, but the one thing I did notice is that early game, it's not something you want to see. It just contributes a little bit more to the brick hands. And I actually put the second Vortex Trooper in its place. I just wanted to add a little bit more consistency. But like I said, I'm still not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, it's a little iffy just because like you want to see one of them, uh, and then like I guess if you're in a situation where like Heavy Storm's on your bottom two cards or something like that, and it's kind of it can be hard if they have like oppression or something. And you just can't get through it. Um, but then it also stinks if you open Giant Trunade and Heavy Storm in your open hand. You're like, okay, those are two dead cards. Maybe having Vortex Trooper to shuffle one of those back or both of them back would be nice, I guess. I don't know if there's something you can another cut you can make elsewhere to add Trunade back, but I definitely think Vortex Trooper like helps mitigate that a little bit, just to like put him back in the deck. So yeah, it'll be something we have to test out just to see if we can skate by with the Heavy Storm. Is there like consideration to do Giant Trunade over Heavy Storm? You think just so you can't get like Starlight Road by chance?
Um, yeah, like if you know your opponent's on Starlight Road, then Trunade is actually better. But I think Heavy Storm is better overall because it destroys everything,
Yeah,
doesn't send it back to the hand.
yeah. And I guess it's a little awkward too if you want to push for a card destruction play, but then it's like, okay, I don't want Giant Trunade all their back row back to the hand and then card destruction. Give them like a bunch of new cards, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then you've been on this Reckless Greed for a while. Um, I was kind of a doubter for a long time, but I tried it last week and more recently it's been pretty solid. Do you have anything you want to say about Reckless Greed?
Yeah, so when I first started playing this deck, I was looking for more draw power just because there's times where you need that extra draw power to go off. And I was looking at so many cards in the card pool, and I came up with this card. And at first, I was like, I'm not sure because it's a trap card, and you don't really want trap cards in this deck. But when I actually tested it, it was doing really well. Like, it's fine. Most decks are going to let you resolve it, and you can just go off that next turn.
Yeah, there's just like this like small things that can go wrong with Reckless Greed, but like overall, like I guess it shouldn't matter. And if you open like two of them, then you should like just win anyways. So it kind of gives you like another auto win if you like open two, which again Vortex Trooper, and you're drawing all these cards anyway. So like if you get to even if you can't get to Rejuve, if you get the two Reckless Greeds, that's probably like good enough too. So it just gives you another card to dig for, I guess. That's really good rather than just
Yeah.
banking on the Rejuve play. Okay, well, yeah, that's the main deck. It looks pretty solid, and I'm a big fan of it. We can just kind of speed through the side and extra deck. We'll just jump into the extra deck real quick. And here you are on the Consecrated Light. Me and ProStorm were testing this for a while. We weren't really sure if it was like worth siding or not. Just because like the really aggressive like hybrid Blackwings kind of fell in the meta last year. So like, and then the regular Blackwings like decide Diana and maybe Thunder King or something like that. So how was this card for you against like the Blackwing matchup?
So, like you mentioned, I only try to side this against the really aggressive build with Greffer, but against the pure Blackwing build, I don't think it's worth it because they usually side in cards like Thunder King or Fossil Dyna, and it's so easy to run over.
Yeah, that can definitely be a problem. Um, I guess you can technically side Book of Moon. Like okay, so against like Blackwings, if you were to bring this in, you would bring in this and Decree. But I guess you can technically bring in Book of Moon if you were to side it to like set that monster down. But it's kind of like asking for like a trio of cards, a trio of cards just to deal with that one interaction. So it's kind of like sus in that instance. But yeah, did this come in handy for you at all? Did you side it in?
I only sided it in once, and it ended up backfiring on me, so I stopped siding it for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of hard to. It's kind of weird to play around because like yeah, again, Darkness Metal Dragon's dark, so it's a little awkward, I would say. Um,
Yeah.
so were you saying you probably wouldn't side this in the future? Maybe just like, do you have anything? I guess we could talk about when you're we're done with the side deck if you would want to add anything else, but this is up for consideration, cutting from the side, maybe.
Yeah, that can be something else. I'm still not sure
Yeah.
what it would be, but I'll have to think about it.
Ooh. And then you have the extra Drago here. I guess it's just like an extra way to kill like the dark and light decks, or to dodge like a DD Crow on Drago, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, there's times when your opponent is gonna try to DD Crow the first one, so you still have the second one and still go for the OTK.
Yeah. And if you can, like, if you like redo for a bunch, maybe you can just like, if you say you were on one, you can just like keep it in hand and then summon him with Darkness Metal rather than putting it in the grave where they can DD Crow it. So it's a little
Yeah,
heads up play there.
yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah. And we have the one Prime Material Dragon in the side. Me and Pro Storm usually main deck this card just because it comes in handy quite a bit and lets you make Trident Dragon pretty easy. But you decided to side it. Is there any particular reason you side it and what you side it for?
So the reason I decided to side this card instead of maining it is because it's not a level 8 dragon and it contributes to the brick hands. I know it's a really strong card and has a great effect, but I was just trying to maximize consistency as much as possible. I didn't want any brick hands for the tournament.
Yeah, it can be kind of rough having this and Drago in the main deck, but I guess maybe it's a little bit better on the side, just so you can like run over a fossil dino without having to do like weird plays. And you do play the second Instant Fusion, so you can whatever prime material will take care of. You can usually just like Brio it away in most situations.
Yeah,
And um,
exactly.
is there anything you side this for, like a particular matchup?
Yeah, it comes in often against the hero decks like Diva Hero or Hero Beat just to stop problems like Absolute Zero and Gemini Spark. And a lot of those decks like to side in Fossil Dyna, which is a card that loses to Prime Material as well when it's set.
Yeah, makes a fossil dine setting like not a good play. Otherwise, you have to. The only other way you could do it is get rid of it with Brio, which is obnoxious
Yeah.
if you can't get to it. So yeah, I can definitely see it deciding for those matchups where you can just like it lets you just run over Absolute Zero and then you can just easily summon it off red mid. So cool. Yeah, you don't have to brick on it in the games once. So now Card Trooper. This is something I used to main deck, but you are siding it. Is there a particular reason you're side decking it?
Yeah, so I think Card Trooper is better games 2 and 3, especially when you're going second, because usually the opponents, when they bring in their floodgates, you want to answer it as soon as possible. And this is a really good answer to that.
Yeah, and lets you run over like those like Fossil Dyna Thunder Kings. Oh, we lost my screen here. Lets you run over Fossil Dyna and Thunder King, like the Floodgate monsters, and I guess it's an easy level 3 to get in the grave for a potential Black Rose play if you need to. Um,
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's better than Vortex Trooper when you're going second, especially after sighting.
yeah. Do you take out like a Vortex Trooper for a Card Trooper, or is that how that works?
Yeah, I usually just like to replace it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you're probably gonna get beat up if you just like throw Vortex Trooper out there going second, because you're gonna be taking a lot of damage, most likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, the only thing about Card Trooper is just playing the one Pi Avers, because I played two Pi Avers when I played Card Trooper in case you happen to mill one of the pots or you mill all your red mids and pot the some combination, so it could be a little hard, but you keep Magical Stone in, so it's probably not as something you have to worry about as much. You happen to
Yeah,
need
it's
to get
not
pot
that
hours.
bad.
Yeah,
It's not that bad, but I think it's worth trying to get rid of cards like Thunder King and Fossil Dyna.
yeah. Cool, fair enough. And then you got the cursed morphine jar here. Um, you got any crazy stories or anything about morphine jar?
So I tested this card for a while, and there are times when you can do some really crazy explosive things with this when you set it turn one. It's kind of like another card destruction, but it is risky because you don't want your opponent to send a lot of cards that trigger in the graveyard, especially during their turn. So like it can backfire, but at the same time it can be really good.
Yeah, it's kind of like go big or go home kind of cards. But like if they're not prepared for it, then it pretty much can like outright win you the game. So um, I guess maybe this would be a good combination with Book of Moon, just so you can like stop their attack and then you can flip it on your turn and just kind of you'll go like super plus when they just like lose their hand.
Yeah, this card gets way better when they don't expect it.
Yeah, because like a lot of times you'll just set like a Vortex Trooper or like a Debris or White Stone. Like they'll just like, okay, I'm just gonna run it over. And there's even times where White Stone set and they're like, okay, I don't want to run it over because then you're gonna get Blue Eyes for trade in kind of situation. So they'll just like leave it sit there for a turn or something, some reason. Um, so maybe if they just let it sit there, you can resolve Morphin Jar easier. So yeah, it's definitely a cool card. Is there something you sided in first, like a particular deck, or going first? I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's usually just going first and against decks that don't use their graveyard too much.
Yeah, maybe like a hero beat or um,
Yeah, exactly. Hero Beat would be the main one.
I'm not exactly sure if there's a deck that. I guess maybe it wouldn't matter against frogs. I guess you don't want to say against frogs. I don't know, it's a little weird against them because they can't really plus off their situation, but I don't know. So definitely a cool card. And then you got 1 for 1. I assume this is for the Consecrated Light or Whitestone play.
Yeah, I just wanted another copy of Consecrated Light, just like a fourth one.
Cool. And I guess it's a little flexibility because you do have the other level 1 guys. So maybe,
Yeah, there's more targets.
yeah, if you want to do like if you want to fit more room, maybe you could just do like 2 orbs and 1 for 1 rather than 3 orbs. Just flexibility maybe. And then you got the giant Truanate here that we talked about. Um, and then I guess you always bring this in most scenarios.
Yeah, that usually goes in
Yeah,
game two or three.
to clear those floodgates and my body. Uh, I used to side this for like the fairy matchup just because of like Herald of Orange Light could be a problem. Is that what this is for?
Yeah, for the fairy matchup, and
I guess
also
deck
like
dev.
when you're deck dev or when you're trying to protect Consecrated Light from Icarus attack.
This might not even be like a terrible card to decide for frogs either, just because Dark Dust Spear can be a problem sometimes. Like I had a field recently where I had like double red med prime material and he booked a moon my prime material and then he dark dust spirit me, so that was a little unfortunate. Um, but probably doesn't come up that often. And then you got the 3 vortex. Uh, I feel you have to side 2 to 3 of this card just because it gets rid of all your problems. This is the board wipe. I'm sure this card was clutch all weekend. Probably the best side deck card.
Yeah, this card came in every single round, literally every single round.
Yeah.
It's so good. Like you need to get rid of those monsters, those floodgate monsters. And it's also really good because it counts for super rejuve.
Yeah, since it discards, which is pretty crazy. So like you're not even going neg in this situation. So you're just clearing the. It's essentially just like a dark hole for your opponent. It's Raigeki in most scenarios.
Yeah,
And again, like it gets rid of their pressure or like their floodgate monsters. So like just having fossil dying usually doesn't cut it. Like they just have to like have like a bunch of other cards alongside with side of it, and you got roll decree for like the trap decks, which I'm sure is pretty good as well. Just having decree, true nade, heavy storm is probably too much for those decks.
yeah, especially against the hero beat matchup. It's absolutely devastating, especially when they go like set 4 back row and then you go end phase decree. They can't play.
Yeah, because like so much has to go right. They have to like have like alias, spark, and then like other cards to stop whatever you're doing next. So usually having like a combination of those cards is like game ending. Like decree, heavy storm. Okay, you win.
Yeah,
It, and like with hero beats being so popular right now, like because this deck just like outspeeds hero beat by a lot. So usually like the fairy matchup and hero beat matchup like always like your free matchups for this deck.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. And then since you got two instant fusions in the main deck, you have a little bit different of a extra deck here. So we'll just go through that real quick. Oh, first of all, I just wanted. Did you want to decide something? Have like another card that you're missing potentially in the sideboard?
Something that I might want to put back in is Clear Vice Dragon. There's like so many Blackwing players, and code can be really annoying.
Yeah, I played this past week without Clear Vice, and I think I had one sus situation where I was like, well, if he has honest, I'm just dead. But he didn't, so. But having Clear Vice would be nice for those like particular situations, I guess. But again, the room's just so tight in the like the main deck, it's kind of hard to fit it in.
Right.
But it's nice to have that utility since you can just Future Fusion it and then get it back off red mid. So, all right, well, yeah. So the extra deck, let's go through the fusions real quick. So you have Dragoness here. I guess it lets you like climb to a level 8 play with Debris Whitestone and or make a level 7 like Black Rose Sage Fairy or even make Armory Arm. So yeah, I think Dragoness is just really good, especially for the Armory Arm play. Did this come up
Yeah, yeah.
much?
It only came up once, but in testing, it's been really good. Like there are times when you can go Debris Dragon, special summon Whitestone, and then you go Instant Fusion, special summon Dragoness, and then you go into Ancient Fairy Dragon. Then you can special summon um, Quackimero Drago from your hand, and then you go Stardust. So now you have
Mm.
Quackimero Drago plus Stardust, and that's pretty good against certain decks.
Yeah, it can be like a hard field to crack in certain situations because like they might
Right.
like if you do it against Blackwings, they probably can't clear. They can only clear Drago with like Sirocco, but they can't clear Stardust, and then they set back row, and then it's like okay, Heavy Storm, you know, they're out there.
Right.
So that could be definitely. It just gives you like a good turn one field too, and then like I guess Army Arm thing. Since we're talking about the
Yeah.
level 3, it could just make your red med huge and OTK in certain situations.
Yeah, there's times when your opponent tries to summon something like their own Ancient Fairy Dragon in defense, and usually this deck has trouble running over things with more than 3,000 attack or defense. So what you do is you go Armory Arm, equip it to something like Red Eyes, and now you can run over a lot of cards.
Yeah, and then they take the burn too, which is pretty crazy. So you have a 3,800 red eyes, and then it is they take burn on top of that, so they could take a lot of damage. I guess Clear Vice
Right.
would take care of Ancient Fairy Dragon 2 in a sense, but it's kind of niche anyways because you do have the vortexes and you can make Brio, so kind of niche. And then you got the two dark fire dragons, just because you have two instant fusions in case you needed both.
Yeah, that play comes up often where you actually need to summon the second one.
Yeah, and then it kind of if you unless you do like a synchro play, but or like do other plays with like debris and Whitestone rather than having to always banish one of them to make a play. So kind of nice. And then you got Ojama Knight here, your spice. I saw you use it in one scenario where you made Brio early to like rejuve loop to get a couple draws, and then you pot average Brio back, and then you debris dragon back the Ojama Knight to make Brio again. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
that play happens a couple of times, not too often, but I found that it comes up more than the Musician King plus Tempest play, so I decided to go with this instead.
yeah, the Musician King and Tempest thing, I guess it's cool when it works, but usually you just make Brio anyways. That usually wins anyways, but um, I guess Tempest could technically burn for like 2,000 turn one. But with upstarts being in the deck, that's kind of just like negs it out. So I can see Ojama Knight being useful. Just is there any other uses for this, or is it just like that one particular interaction?
Um, so it's usually just for that interaction, but back when I was testing Call the Haunted, there were times when you can use Call the Haunted to bring this back and block two of your opponent's zones. But like now that I don't play Call the Haunted anymore, it's just to bring it back with the Beast Dragon.
That'd be a funny play. Like they go for like some kind of return play, and then you just like take up two of their zones.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so that's a cool card. And then you got Mariner still. Um, I guess it's just because it gets around Drago, which is always nice.
Yeah, and it also gets around bottomless trap hole.
Yeah, which only really matters if you're going for like, well, I guess it can't like because if you go with this and Whitestone, you can't Brio can't dodge bottomless anyways. But if you go with guard, which you do main deck, then that does matter.
Yeah, you want to be able to use priority so you can
Yeah,
get rid of the other cards.
yeah. But if you go with Whitestone, then that's always going to be like mandatory. So you can't use priority with Brionic, unfortunately. Um,
Right.
so yeah, but you are playing the guard, so that play does make sense. And then obviously five-headed dragon. I mentioned this in this happened last year, I think when I got second with the deck, but it came up where I needed a second five-headed dragon. It was like a really weird situation. I don't think it's worth playing the second one, but I thought it was just funny to mention. I don't know if that ever came up for
Yeah.
you.
Um, it's only happened one time ever, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the fusions and then synchros. You got Army Arm, which we already kind of talked about with Dragoness. Just like more OTK potential. And then you got Catastor. Just I think this is only really relevant with like Trigodia, right? Maybe Instant Fusion if it comes down to it.
Yeah, yeah, you can do it with Trigodia and Instant Fusion against certain matchups, like uh, for example, like the Catastor, you can use that for Fortress.
Yeah, yeah. Fortress can be kind of annoying.
Yeah,
Um,
that.
is that how you beat the Machina guy? You make Catastor and just run over Fortress.
Yeah, that's the way to do it if you can't go Brio.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think at some point I side decked Cyber Dragon just to deal with that. But again, you're on Lightning Vortex, so that takes care of Fortress anyways. So, uh,
Yeah,
and then you got Brionic, which is the best monster in the extra deck, pretty much. Um, deals with all your opponent's cards, and Iron Chain Dragon. Now, I talk about this with ProStorm. He does not believe in this card, but it comes up quite a bit. Whereas like you don't have Red Med, but you only have Debris Dragon, Instant Fusion, and then well, especially since you're playing two Instant Fusion, but yeah, this card just kind of like lets you make Trident Dragon really easy.
Yeah, so this card came up so many times in the tournament, especially that I don't main deck Prime Material Dragon. This was the card that I went to when I wanted to go for Trident Dragon.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It gives you like the access to Trident Dragon that you're missing with Prime Material, like you said. So I can definitely see it coming up a lot. So let me think. Um, so how would that work? Where you would, I guess you would have to go like, well, I guess it shouldn't matter. You get to make Trident anyway, so. And then you got Goyo. Uh, this has been in and out of my extra deck, but since you're on its two instant fusions, this is probably pretty good still. Just
I mean, I don't make it too much, but it did come up one time where I stole a Stardust Dragon.
yeah, it can come up like niche situations where you just need to like beat up a monster or something. I guess you
Yeah.
can like get over a Chaos Sorcerer potentially, something weird like that. But yeah, it's still pretty good. And then you got the Black Rose, Ancient Fairy Dragon, since you got the Debris Dragon, Vortex Trooper play. And then you're on Stardust Dragon. Did you make Stardust at all? Like your own Stardust?
Um,
I guess in that one
I
scenario.
actually I actually didn't make it this tournament. Not this tournament, but I have made it in other tournaments before.
Yeah. And then it doesn't really come with that much. Uh, when I since I played Gores in most of my builds, I had Dark End Dragon in my extra deck, and that was the level 8 to go for in most scenarios.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. When you play Gore's Dark End Dragon is the better level 8.
yeah. Did you miss Dark End access at all? I guess since you usually don't play with Gores, I don't know if it would came up at all for you, but
Um,
I guess it's kind of
no,
hard
not
to
really.
say just because you have
Yeah,
Brionic Vortex a lot of the time.
exactly.
Yeah, and and then yeah, the Trident Dragon again just it's what like lets you if you upstart like 3 times. This is what lets you OTK pretty much um all the time. Just
Yeah,
because it's
like
like
that card, it deals so many games. When your opponent has so many life points and you don't have access to something like Brionic, you can still win through this card.
yeah. And I guess did you ever make like you were out of like red meds and you just like okay I got Debris Dragon Instant Fusion that's it.
Yeah, that actually came up one time in the tournament.
Yeah, it actually comes up quite a bit for me, where it's like and it's like it could be like really late game where again you ran out of red mids and this is all you have, and then they're probably low on cards too, and you just like go for that last ditch OTK. I think this came up against Frogs where I didn't have anything left recently, and then he was at like something absurd. I think he was at like 6,600, and I would have to beat over something for 600, and then we'll get 2 more attacks in, but he had Meteor Force, so. uh, but it would have been the exact game. So, is there anything in the extra deck you missed at all?
Um, no, not really. I
Yeah,
like it the way it is.
yeah. The problem this deck is weird because like there's like so many like niche extra deck options like that might come up like once in a blue moon, but when you don't have it, it's like really unfortunate. Um, that's kind of like what I found. So you can probably like have like a 30 card extra deck and everything come up to like one time. But these are
Yeah,
probably like
that's
the
the
things that come up the most, I guess.
yeah, that's the funny thing. Like so many cards in your extra deck will only come up once, and then Brionic is the one that comes up every game.
Yeah, Bryonics is crazy. And thanks to Instant Fusion, it just like lets you do that. Unlike the regular Dragon deck, normally would have problems with, like they can't just clear a Spirit Reaper or something like that. Um, cool. I think that's like pretty much the deck. Is there any like tournament experience things you want to talk about, like cool things that happened or anything crazy
Um,
situations?
crazy situation I would say was when I didn't have access to red eyes anymore, and when I went tried and dragging out for game, so that was pretty crazy.
Ooh,
And another crazy play is um when my only way to out a colossal fighter was going black rose, so I was able to nuke his entire board and win the next turn.
that's pretty good. Yeah, like they can't deal with like they make like some defensive board and you just able to black rose it away. It's pretty crazy. Like you just wipe everything out. This makes it puts that much more pressure on them to like they have to make like a r- really solid board without like everything getting messed up.
Right.
You can just like blow away everything. And I guess with two infusions, it lets you make the black rose play a lot more since you can like blow away the board with black rose and an infusion, summon red mid, and go for a push, which is pretty neat. Cool. Well, I guess that's everything. Again, congratulations on winning the tournament with Dragon Turbo. You're the first player to win like a major tournament with Dragon Turbo. I think I got second with it last year in a ribbit. So you sealed the deal for the Dragon Turbo community, all five of us. Uh, because like not a lot of people like this deck too much. And do you think it's a hard deck to play? To some degree.
I actually think it is. Like when I see players playing this deck, the thing that I notice the most is they don't know exactly when to go off and
Yeah.
when to actually just hold your cards. And another thing is the way you sequence your cards in this deck is actually really important.
Yeah, I definitely see those same things a lot too. Like I'll be watching someone play and they're just like, okay, I don't have much going on. I'm just gonna banish white stone, summon red mid, and summon a blue eyes from my hand. It's like, okay, well, let's use three cards where you could just wait like a couple turns to draw like a card's a constant or a trade in and then just pop off, you know?
Right.
Like you just want to save all your resources for that one big push. It's not like the other decks where it's like you throw Shura out there and see what you can do.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's
Like
that's
this is
that. Oh, sorry.
this is one of the decks that you get punished real bad by misplaying.
Oh yeah. Yep. I mean, I've been playing the deck for a long time. I think I played it in a tournament last week, and there's definitely like really weird situations that came up, and I think I probably could have played it a little differently. And then, but yeah, you live and learn. So yeah. Again, congratulations, and then I'll have your YouTube channel down link below, just so everyone can check your new channel out. I've been watching your videos, and they're pretty entertaining to watch. And I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yep. All right. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.